Okay. Welcome everyone to our webinar. As you all know, this is the first webinar in a series of webinars that we're going to be hosting. I know it's been a while since we've had our last webinar, so we're excited to kind of reintroduce our webinar series. And as we've done in the past, our goal is to host at least one webinar a month. And we'll record all the webinars and make them available for playback. We'll post the links on Facebook and Twitter, put them out on our website, etc. Now, further to that, this is a brand new webinar program for us, and it's this Meeting Burner webinar program. And we ran a few tester connection sessions as well as did a lot of testing internally to try and troubleshoot any potential problems we might have before today's webinar. And everything seemed to go smoothly, but as you and I know, there's always room for trouble when it comes to technology. So we are just going to hope that everything runs as smoothly as we think it will. Now, if you have any issues during the webinar, if you could just please send us a note via email. That way we can try and address it after the webinar and troubleshoot any issues that you had. Because again, we want this to be a smooth webinar platform for everybody so that everybody can get a lot out of it. Now, before we jump into the content, I want to cover just a few basics about Meeting Burner since it is new for all of us. And first are the audio options. Now, on the left side of your Meeting Burner panel, you'll see a section called Audio Options. And this is just a screenshot of my screen. But there's a drop down there, and the options are going to be dial-in, headset and mic, or listen only. And listen only is really probably the best way to watch the webinar, and that's going to allow you to listen through your computer speakers or headphones that you have plugged into your computer. You don't need to have a microphone or a webcam to participate in this webinar. So if you prefer to dial in and listen via the phone, you can certainly do that as well. Now, below the audio options, you'll see two tabs, Participants and Chat. And this is where we're going to ask you to pose any questions that you have throughout the webinar. And this chat box allows everybody that's in the session to see your question, and it also allows everyone to see the answer that we give you. And I guess I should back up because I never did introduce myself. But my name is Marcy Branich, and I am a member of the HeinOnline's support team here at the Hein Company. And we also have a moderator today, and that's Miranda Rosati. And she's also a member of the HeinOnline's support team in marketing here. So in this chat tab, when you ask questions, Miranda is actually going to be our moderator, and she's going to be answering the questions for you throughout the session. And that's going to allow me to continue on with the presentation so that we can get through everything we want to get through. If you'd like to also ask a question via Twitter or comment to us via Twitter, that's fine as well. We can certainly comment back to you. Now at the top of the screen, you're also going to see a button that says Ask a Question. And this is going to allow you to ask a private question. And what I mean by private is anything you put in that Ask a Question box is only going to show up to me, the presenter, on my screen. And those questions, we can't type back an answer to you. I can certainly try and address those questions at the end of the session. Or if we don't get to those questions, we'll certainly follow up with you via email after the webinar is over. But again, the chat option is really the best thing to use for questions. Okay, that pretty much covers the basics of using Meeting Burner. For anyone who was able to connect to today's webinar using Google Chrome, if you happen to experience any connection issues during the session, try closing out of Google Chrome and try Firefox or Internet Explorer instead. We found in some of our internal testing that Chrome would often just kind of kick us out. So if you happen to have that issue, try a different browser and see if that works for you. Okay, so let's get started. Our first focus in our webinar series is on HeinOnline's U.S. Congressional Documents library. And this library contains a few key tools that you should know will really get the most out of your research. And the first tool is the Daily to Bound Locator Tool. Now, this tool can be accessed from the Resources tab, or it can be accessed, and here you'll see it, Congressional Record Daily to Bound Locator, or it can be accessed from the Search tab. So if we click on that link, what it's going to do is bring the tool up here on our screen. And what this allows you to do is essentially convert Congressional Record Daily Edition references into citations to the permanent edition, and vice versa. So currently our coverage for the Congressional Record Dailies goes back to 1980. So if you have a citation or a date that's from 1980 to current, up until the bound volumes have been published in 2009 here, you'd be able to use this tool. So let's look at some examples. We want to look for discussions on the floor about the Head Start Reauthorization Bill, and that's H.R. 1429 in the School Readiness Act of 2007. Now we know the bill was discussed in the Senate on June 19, 2007. And then we do have the citation, which is 153 CR S7996. So if we have the citation to the page, we could easily pull that up using our Citation Navigator option here. But really what we want to know is, what is the corresponding citation in the bound volume? Now, our research indicated that there were additional remarks made by Senator Enzi and Senator Reed, which weren't published in the daily edition. They were only published in the permanent bound edition. So we need to take our daily citation and find it in the bound volume. So the first option we give you is the ability to select a date. So we have a date of June 19, 2007. So from the drop-down, I'm just going to select June 19, 2007 and hit go. Now when our results come up here, what it's going to show you are the citations for the daily and the bound volumes for each chamber here. Now we know that we're looking for the Senate proceedings, so we're actually going to focus in on this first result here. Now the citations that it's giving you are the citations to the beginning of that section of the daily or the bound edition. And that's where this search box becomes very important. This search box is going to allow you to enter key terms in here and really drill down to the specific page match within the daily and the bound volumes. So what that means is we could insert in here our bill number, HR 1429 in quotes, and hit go. And when our results come up, it's going to appear in a charted format here. And on the left, you're going to see the daily page citations for Tuesday, June 19th. And on the right, you're going to see the bound page citations. Now we know from our citation that it was page 7996 in the daily edition. So if we scroll down here, page 7996, here's our bill, the Head Start Authorization Bill. And the corresponding page just to the right, 16461. Now how do we know that's the corresponding page? That's why we show you the text here, because it's going to show you essentially that the text is almost the same. So we can link right to the page in the bound volume here. Yeah, and once this comes up here, so here it is, Improving the Head Start Act of 2007 with our bill. And if we page forward, we'll see about halfway in the middle column, almost to the end, Senator Enzi's remarks that have been inserted into the bound volume. And these were not part of the daily citation. They weren't part of the daily edition. So that's one way you can use that daily to bound locator tool. Now the other thing you could do with that, let's go back to our resources, go back to our tool. Since we had the citation, we could have also inserted the citation here and done the same exact search. So if we put in here volume 153, Congrec Daily, put in our page citation, S7996, hit citation, Now this is just going to give us the results from the Senate here. And again, we could insert the same search terms and we would get the same results for those matching pages. This last option allows you to browse a month and a year. And essentially, let's just choose June 2007 here and hit Browse. What this is going to show us is every day in the month of June of 2007 that the congressional record was published, and on that day it's going to give you the citations to the Senate within the daily and the bound, the House within the daily and the bound, the extensions within the daily and the bound, as well as the daily digest. And again, you can link right to any of these sections, but this is just going to give you an overall view of what was published on each day in June of 2007. So that's the first key tool you should really have a good understanding of in the congressional documents in HeinOnline. Now the next top thing you should know is how to quickly pull up a hearing from our Congressional Hearings collection. Now if you've been following our newsletters, you'll know that we've added over 13,000 hearings from Arnold and Porter and Covington and Burlings prestigious hearings collections. And you can access the hearings from the browse options here. And once you pull up those hearings, what we're going to show you first is essentially a quick finder tool. Okay, and this quick finder tool is going to allow you to select a Congress, a chamber, a committee, and then insert key terms and search for that hearing. Now you could certainly browse all these hearings as well in the traditional HeinOnline format if you wish. Now for our example, we want to look for a hearing that was held on April 21st of 2005, and that was 2 years before the reauthorization of the Head Start Act. And this hearing was held in the House of Representatives by the Subcommittee on Education Reform of the Committee on Education and the Workforce. And the primary focus of the hearing, from what we know, is that they discussed the Head Start program as they prepared to reauthorize it, and they discussed its ultimate goal of integrating Head Start with other early childhood programs that already existed. So in this hearing, there's a statement by Helen Blank, and she's the Director of Leadership and Public Policy at the National Women's Law Center in DC. And we really want to find that statement within the hearing for our research purposes. So here's what we can do. Using this quick finder tool, we're going to select a Congress here. Now, if you don't know the specific Congress number, you can choose any Congress, and then once your results come up, we'll allow you to drill down your results by the Congress number using faceted searching. So I'm going to choose any Congress. Now from the chamber, we're going to select the House here. If you know the exact name of the committee, you could certainly choose the committee. As you can see, there's multiple committees and subcommittees in here. So I like to choose any committee, and then once we get our results, use the facets to drill down further by committee. Now in the text box, this is essentially an advanced text box search, so you can use your Boolean operators, phrase searching, proximity searching. We're going to search for Head Start in quotations, use our Boolean operator and then we're going to insert Helen Blank. And she was the Director of Leadership and Public Policy at the National Women's Law Center. And it's her statement that we're looking for. And then we're going to click Search. And this is going to give us 12 results here. Now, as I mentioned, on the left, you'll see our facets. And this is where we can drill down further by date, or even by the Congress, if you knew the Congress, or even by the committee here. Now, we're going to select the date range 2000 to 2005. And that's going to narrow our results to 4. And then if we look at our committees here, we know that this is all related to education reform. So we're going to select the Subcommittee on Education Reform, and that's going to narrow us down to just one single result here. And this is from the 109th Congress, the Subcommittee on Education Reform, from April 21st, 2005. And that's the hearing that we're looking for Now if we click View Matching Text Pages, this is where we're going to find those key terms that we searched for, and those are Head Start and Helen Blank. So we can scroll through our View Matching Text Pages, which show us a snippet of what the text looks like on the page. And we're going to keep scrolling down until we see Helen Blank. And here you'll see Statement of Helen Blank, Director of Leadership and Public Policy. So we're going to link to page 27 here, and that's going to show us her statement within this hearing. Now the ability to drill down your results is really, of course, going to depend upon the information that you have regarding the hearing you're looking for before you start. You're not always going to have as much information maybe as we have here, or maybe you have more information. No matter the case, you really want to consider what information you do have, how it relates to what you're looking for, and focus in on those key terms and those dates, and that's how you can kind of navigate through the results. Now the last thing, or the last tool rather, or research strategy you really should know is how to search for a bill in the History of Bills and Resolutions sections in the daily and the bound volumes. So let's say we want to search for a House bill, and it was Bill 2123 that was passed in 2005 to reauthorize the Head Start Act to improve the school readiness of disadvantaged children. Now, the fastest way to search the History of Bills and Resolutions from the bound volumes is by clicking on our Resources tab. You'll see under Browse it says History of Bills and Resolutions. If we click on that, that is going to generate a complete list of all of the History of Bills and Resolutions that have been published in the Congressional Record bound volumes. And again, you'll see on the left here our date facets if you wanted to narrow that further to a specific date range. Now once we pull this list up, what we can do is we can use Search Within Results. And that's going to bring us an advanced search box. And again, you'll see up here, it's searching within all of those sections, just the Congressional Record. So we're going to type in our bill number here in quotations. I'm going to narrow this to 2007. Actually, not 2007. I'm going to leave it open. And that's going to give us 40 results. Now, the reason I took the date out is so I could show you the facets, because we actually only have through the 2005 index. But what we can do here is choose 2000 to 2005, and that's going to narrow that result set to just 4. And if we click our View Matching Text Pages, we'll be able to see exactly where the bill appeared in the History of Bills and Resolutions and the 2005 Congressional Record. And our first result here, if we read our text, this is more of a resolution that's referring to the bill, so that's likely not the one we want. But if we look at our second one here, 2123, a bill to reauthorize, and we link to page 4032, and we're going to just zoom in here on these Congressional Record pages. And here we are, 2123, a bill to reauthorize the Head Start Act. So that's the quickest way to search the History of Bills and Resolutions from the bound volumes. Again, that's Resources, and then Browse History of Bills and Resolutions, and then use Search Within Results. Now you can also search the History of Bills and Resolutions from the daily editions, but that method is a little different, so I want to show you briefly how to do that. Now, if we want, for example, to find the House Bill 1429, and that was the 2007 bill to reauthorize the Head Start Act. To search those daily History of Bills and Resolutions sections, we're going to do a field search. And those sections we know are published in the Congressional Record Daily Indexes. And in the indexes, History of Bills and Resolutions sections indexed as the description. So we're going to choose section description from our dropdown, and we're going to go ahead and just type right in here, history of bills and resolutions, all in quotations. We're going to use our Boolean operator and. We're going to search the text next for our key term, which is going to be our bill number, HR 1429, in quotations. Now from our title listing here, we want to select just the Congressional Record daily indexes. And since we know they're from 2007, we can go ahead and insert that date range here and click search. Now that's going to give us 7 results. And again, using our view matching text pages, we can link right to the text from the daily index to see Bill 1429 within the History of Bills and Resolutions section. And here it is here, and I can zoom in on that for you. And here it is here. So again, the approach is a little different when you're searching the History of Bills and Resolutions sections, depending on if you're looking in the bound volumes or those daily editions. And those are really the top 3 things that I wanted to share with you about researching HeinOnline's U.S. Congressional Documents collection. Those things can be really useful for you in your research if you're doing this type of research. Now, if you have any questions about anything that we've covered today, please feel free to, we'll stick around here in the Meeting Burner program for a little while and answer some questions via chat. Feel free to email us. You can email us at holsupport@wshein.com. You can reach out to us via live chat, Facebook, Twitter. Just feel free to reach out to us in any shape or form. You can certainly call us as well. And we'll make the recording of today's session available shortly. And that way you can share the link with anybody else who you think might benefit from it. And once the webinar is over, we will follow up with you with an email. And in the email, we're going to include a link to just a short survey. We really want to obtain your feedback and get a feel for whether or not you like our new webinar platform, and also about our webinar series in general, what you might like to see covered in a future webinar session, if you like today's session or not, and just some general feedback. And again, we rely on your feedback to really continue building our webinar series, as well as the enhancements and the tools and things that we add to HeinOnline. So your feedback is greatly appreciated. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. And we will, again, stick around for questions here for a few minutes. Now we do have a question here. Does the bound volume always have more than the daily, or no? Sometimes the daily has something the bound doesn't. And anybody can jump in here in the chat window and answer if you'd like. But from my understanding is the daily edition, more often than not, is going to contain less than the bound volumes. There's often, bills that are referenced during the proceedings and things that are truncated just due to time and things. And a lot of the times in the bound volumes, those are going to be printed in full. So to answer that question, and if I'm wrong, somebody can jump in here in the chat, but to answer that question, the bound typically has more than the daily. And as I showed you in the example that I did, the bound edition actually had 2 more statements, or remarks rather, from senators that weren't included in that daily edition, and that's typically how it goes. And for those of you who are all set with today's webinar, there is no log off button. I have gotten that question a few times. So you can just close the browser and that will actually log you off of the webinar session. But again, thanks so much for attending. We really appreciate it.